When I was in my 20s, I lived in a city for the first time in my life. It was an exciting few years of culture and events, but after a while, I began to wish for a transformation. I dreamed of changing my rented apartment for space to grow, and eventually I walked the path that led me to making that vision a reality. Now, at 32 years old, I can say that I am living the life I have dreamed of and have been for a while now. My partner and I don't currently own the land where we live, but we do have our very own garden and the time to spend tending to it. Today, I want to show you some of the elements of my little cottage garden, specifically 3 herbs that I have come to rely on for my physical and mental well-being. My skills at growing vegetables, waxes, and wanes. The herbs, however, are always here. Some are planted in pots, others are rooted in the ground. Many of them will come with us when we move in a year or so, and all of them have supported me over the years. I want to focus on 3 of these plants that are particularly important to me this time of year as summer weather fades and fall begins. Catnip is famous for provoking a euphoric response in cats. My own kitties have grown up with an unlimited access to this herb and often eat a leaf or 2 on their own. We have 3 indoor-outdoor cats that I want to keep close to home. So, a few years ago, I began planting catnip around the front yard. And you can see how it has grown. Last week, a huge storm rolled through these mountains. During the day, the weather was cloudy, and at night, buckets of rain came down, along with lots of thunder and lightning. While my partner and I enjoyed our time working on creative projects or sitting by the fire, 2 out of 3 cats were very scared. One of our cats, Paprika, remained calm through the loud noises, but the boy kitties were frightened and hid under furniture till the thunder moved on. To help them cope with the loud weather, we gave them all a bit of catnip to calm their nerves. Also, it is nice to have catnip laying around the house anyway because, though our cats are siblings from the same litter, our calico Paprika and one of the orange cats, Reishi, don't always get along well, especially when cooped up in our small house during a storm. The scent of catnip in the air seems to alleviate any tension, and play fights that get too rowdy can easily be dispersed by giving each cat their own catnip branch. Most of the time, our cats are friends though, especially when there's a fire in their hearth to warm themselves besides. Catnip is great for chilling out anxious kitties and dispelling tension between friendly cats, and it is really helpful for humans too. There was a time when I drank catnip tea every day to help me cope with stress and anxiety. Catnip has a relaxing effect on humans. The fresh or dried leaves can be made into a tea or to relieve stress and anxiety, bring on restful sleep, and ease digestion or menstrual cramps. And also, catnip is an amazing addition to fermented herbal drinks. I like to add 1 to 3 sprigs to my water kefir, and the effect is surprisingly effervescent. If you don't know what water kefir is, it's a fermented drink, kind of like kombucha, though in my opinion, water kefir is so much easier to make than kombucha. I could go on, but I won't today because making herbal water kefir is the topic of an upcoming video, so stay tuned for that. Another herb that is indispensable to have growing in a cottage garden is rosemary. This plant is very well known as a culinary herb, most famously added to baked potatoes. Rosemary shouldn't be limited to a condiment alone. Years ago, I cracked open my herbal books to research a bit about rosemary, which grows so abundantly in this area, and was surprised to read a long list of herbal actions. Rosemary is antiseptic, antibacterial, and recommended as a tea for colds, flus, headaches, and nervous tension. I like to keep things simple and usually head out to the rosemary bush when I feel a headache coming on. Either fresh or dried rosemary will work, and I have found that a steaming cup of rosemary tea helps alleviate the headaches I tend to have in fall and winter due to the changes in temperatures. You can find rosemary thriving in most dry climates around the world. Rosemary is considered a Mediterranean herb that does well in dry soil but can handle a rainy season each year too. Where I live in the mountains of Argentina, we have a distinct dry season, usually in winter and spring, and then a rainy season in summer and fall. During the dry season, I never bothered to water the rosemary, but I have found that rosemary in a garden bed can suffer if the soil is too humid. That is why I really like the idea of planting an herb spiral with rosemary at the center. The plant can get really big if given the right environment, and being a bit raised up with plenty of sunlight and room to grow creates the environment where rosemary will thrive. In areas that lean more towards tropical, I have seen people grow rosemary in a pot as long as it is brought under a roof when the tropical storms begin. The same is true in colder climates, where rosemary probably won't survive prolonged exposures to rain, snow, or freezing temperatures. So, if you live in any of those climates and haven't had luck growing rosemary before, try growing it in a big pot that can be brought into a sunny window during winter or during the rainy season. This summer and fall, we have gotten quite a bit of rain, and it rarely freezes in winter, so rosemary can survive year-round outside and does particularly well at the center of an herb spiral in a sunny location. Besides making a simple tea, I really enjoy creating chimichurri with rosemary leaves along with a few others from my herbal garden. Chimichurri is a condiment included in typical dishes, especially choy pan here in Argentina. My personal chimichurri tradition is to use the herbs I have on hand according to the season. So this day, I went around my collection of potted herbs and gathered the typical chimichurri ingredients like oregano and parsley, as well as rosemary, tulsi basil leaves, thyme, and sage. Once those herbs were finely chopped and in a jar, I also added the other staples of an Argentine chimichurri: garlic, red chili flakes, salt, olive oil, vinegar, and a bit of lemon juice. And lastly, to round out the herbs that I feel I couldn't be without in my fall garden is Echinacea. This is an herb that I have discussed quite a bit in previous videos. I have talked about the medicinal properties of this herb in strengthening the immune system. As I was planning this video, I realized that I hadn't really gone into why I think it's so important for herbalists to grow their own Echinacea. So, let us discuss the history of this immune-supporting herb. Once, Echinacea was as common as any other wildflower in the plains of North America. The native peoples of the plains used the root of the purple coneflower to heal from venomous snake bites, as well as to ward off fevers and cure slow-healing wounds. The eclectic herbalists of the 19th century saw the local people curing with Echinacea and adopted the root into their medicinal chest. That is when Echinacea began to gain fame for healing, and in the last few decades has become an integral part of Western herbalism. Due to the increase in popularity of Echinacea, it is no longer as plentiful in its native landscape and even is a threatened species. As a result, more and more herbalists are growing this herb in gardens all over the planet. I am one such herbalist and have been growing Echinacea for about 5 years now. And the age of the plant is really important. According to many herbalists, which I will cite in the description of this video, Echinacea begins to gather its most powerful medicine in the roots after it is 3 years of age. And that is where the trouble lies with buying Echinacea roots in stores. There is no way of knowing how old the plant is or if the herb was harvested in a sustainable way. So, why not try growing Echinacea yourself? The seeds can be challenging to germinate, but once established, Echinacea is a hardy herb and a very beautiful addition to the garden. Now I am off to tincture these fresh roots before the leaves die away and the roots hibernate over winter. Rosemary and catnip, however, will be with us all fall and winter long to beautify the landscape and bring some much-needed greenery to the yard. Be it spring or be it fall, wherever you are, I wish you the best of luck in your herbalism endeavors. And as always, happy crafting!